Where's magic going? This is a question I ask myself a lot, and I talk about this a lot with friends, and I give it a lot of thought because it is something. We're living in an age where magic is on the cusp of changing forever. If we look at the 21st century, what has dictated magic in a layperson's eyes? It's TV. It's TV magicians such as Chris Angel, Blaine, Copperfield, Dynamo. These things have dictated the way people see magic today. It wasn't always like this. Obviously, before Copperfield, there was theaters, right? And that sort of dictated how people saw magic. And if we take this back hundreds of years, magic was always revered. It was always a craft that was revered, that had reverence. And what I mean by that is, when you did something on stage, there was a gray area. And most people, if not all of them, believed that these type of things were possible. And that paved the way for magicians today. Now, somewhere along the line, magic got banalized and sort of treated as an entertainment rather than supernatural thing, which I don't think was bad for the art, but it definitely changed it. Now, when I say art, I'm gonna get into this in a second. I don't believe that magic was always an art form. I believe that magic can be an art form, and I believe that we're going towards a direction where magic will become more of an art form. And I'm gonna talk about that in a second, but magic changed to this sort of hokey, cheesy thing right around television. And then after that came David Blaine's special, right? Which totally shifted the culture of magic, which totally shifted the way people looked at magic. And first, because that reached such a broad audience. With that, in and around that time, came the internet. It's funny, Illusionist was actually the first company selling online tutorials and stuff like that. They actually put an ad on David Blaine's TV rerun special on his first Street Magic one, and that kind of launched Illusionist as a company. So then we started seeing these television personalities and everything else, but then a seed was planted. Every time someone shifts the culture like this, more people get attracted to it because the definition of it changes, becomes more appealing, and becomes more public. And especially with magic, when the currency and commodity is secrecy, people start to really want to learn how it works, even if they don't want to be a magician. We just need to know things. This is just in human nature. So the internet came along. Myself, I started sort of internet magic, if that's what you want to call it, with Instagram. And I had this 15-second time frame where I had to create this illusion, and I had to also convey to you that there was no camera editing and that there was no stooging or no funny business. That I had 15 seconds to impress you, and that's really hard to do on a video. I mean, the one thing you get when you perform to people who've never seen close-up magic before is, I see this stuff on TV all the time. I never thought it was real. I thought it'd catch you out. I thought this and that and the other. So how to create a magic trick online, right? So that started brewing. Along with that, along with the internet, along with performing online on video form, comes inevitably exposure. And I'm not just talking about exposure in the sense of, I'm gonna teach you a method to a trick. I'm talking about exposure of magic as an industry. Magic as an industry is constantly being exposed to the uninitiated through magazines, through ads, through websites, through viral videos. We're seeing it more and more and more through YouTube channels. Here's the thing, we don't have to ask ourselves, is this good or is this bad for magic? Because that question is irrelevant. The question again isn't, is it good for magic or is it bad for magic? Personally, I think it's inevitable. I'm excited because I think it's propelling it in the direction of an art form. Let me explain. If I took anyone who's not familiar with a Jackson Pollock painting, like a abstract painting, and I took them into a gallery at MoMA and said, hey, this is a Jackson Pollock. What do you think of this painting? And they would be like, well, it's colorful. There's a lot of colors. It's beautiful. It looks great. How did he paint it, right? Is that what it is? How did he paint it? They have no grasp on an artistic palette. They have no grasp on the history of Jackson Pollock or why his paintings were important in the era that he painted them in. And same goes for every other successful, famous painter and artist. Much of it is based on technique. Much of it is based on a revolutionary way of looking at a canvas, a revolutionary way of painting, a revolutionary way of displaying a painting, or telling a story through a painting, or something that's never been done. That's, if you study the history of art, you will recognize the genius within this. Right now, magic is in a state where people are starting to recognize the genius within the creations of magic. Where people are starting to recognize magic as something you can create. So that's the first step. Telling people that, yeah, magic is created by people. That you're not born with supernatural abilities. That you work hard to study on magic, study the history, the language of magic, and then adapt it to now and to yourself, and then create these things that never been done before and hopefully revolutionize the craft that you love. It's so easy to impress people with magic. You can buy a $10 trick right out of the box, no skill required whatsoever, and forever change somebody's life potentially, right? So the novelty value of magic is still impressive, but that will eventually die down. It's inevitable that eventually so many people are aware of magic companies, magic being created and performed, that this whole banalization of magic and trickery to some people is a threat to their livelihood, because they think, well, if everybody knows about magic, I'm out of the job, right? Because they're gonna know I'm a fraud. They're gonna know I've been lying to them, right? And I think that's a good thing. I think it's important that the people who think that their livelihood depends on them tricking people into thinking that they can do something that other people can't, I think the importance of them being exposed is great for not only the art form, but for people who truly want to push this into an era where it becomes considered to be an art form. So where I'm getting at, magic exposure. I firmly believe that in the not so distant future, there will be a base knowledge of magic. Much like there's a base knowledge of classical music and theater, poetry, sculpting. It's not everybody, but it's growing. More people are learning to appreciate different art forms. More people are delving into those art forms. Here's where it gets really interesting. The spectator, the layperson, the uninitiated, has always been the consumer of magic. Has always been the one to consume magic. Has always been in the audience being awed and wowed, right? But until that audience member starts to get smart and starts to research online, he no longer becomes fooled. He's too smart. The audience is growing smarter every day, and they have been for 100 years. If you perform a trick now that, 100 years ago, you're gonna be a god. So the audience is getting smarter, and here's the thing, it's not a race. It's not about being smarter with your magic and tricking them. And that's what I thought it was. For years, I thought it was, well, magic, audience is getting smarter, my magic has to be smarter than them. I have to be one step ahead, and that's not the point. I don't think it's the point. Right now, my current state of thought, that's not the point of magic. Because you can only keep that competitive nature of magic up so long before you're outed and discredited. I think the majority of people who will attend magic shows and who watch magic and who seek out good magic will be, in part, magic enthusiasts. And that doesn't mean you're a practitioner, that just means you're really passionate about magic. You just love magic. You love reading about it, you love hearing about it, the inner workings, the study of it. As an art form, you can appreciate magic as an artist. We're propelling magic in that direction through the exposure of YouTube. We need to acknowledge what it is that we're doing and why it is, because right now it's like magic almost is lost. Like there's no direction. Like people are just doing shit and throwing it out there and trying to get views, get famous, or book shows, or sell products. And we're kind of all up in the air, but I think there is a core group of people that really understand it, that are really dissecting magic and that are really looking at it in the way that you would look at any other art form. And that is to appreciate magic, to really truly appreciate magic, you have to know about magic. I mentioned this before, Derek Delgadio has a show in New York, incredible show, completely shifted the culture, I believe. And many people want to deny that, or it's like, oh, it's not my style of magic, or all this bullshit. It's not about style, it's about looking at magic in a way that enhances your respect for the craft and doesn't diminish your intelligence. It's the difference between how did you do that and thank you, that was beautiful. We're getting away from this as long as we focus on this. And these people won't resent us if we focus on this. But if you focus on the how and the methodology and the trickery and the lying and the sort of the narcissism of this, then you will lose out on this experience, on this change and this growth of where magic should be heading. I don't know why I decided to rant about this today. I've had thoughts brewing in my head. Every opinion that I have on magic is just that. It's an opinion, and opinions are subject to change. And if you look at videos of me in the past or read blogs about me in the past, you can clearly see my direction. You see the direction, but you also see the change of mentality and sort of the shift. And those shifts happen when shifts in the culture, the magic culture happen. And it makes you question what it is you're doing. It makes you question everything about what you love. And if you love it, you will question it, right? If you love it, you will question it. If you love it, you will criticize it. If you love it, you will be open to pushing it to whatever's next instead of hindering it, because you can't hinder it. Does that mean it's okay to expose everything on YouTube? I think there's tact, and I think there's a way of doing it. But I also, again, believe that it forces us to be in a position where we have to react. We have to act. We have to define what it is that we love doing. And there are people working on that actively through either their live shows or content in defining what it is that magic is today, now. It's not what it was. You know, people dress up as 1920s tricksters and perform to people and still believe. Here's the thing, they still believe that the audience is also from the 20s, you know? People are ready to appreciate magic as an art form, but the magicians have to be the first one to treat it as one. And an art form doesn't mean being good at sleight of hand. Art form doesn't mean being knowledgeable about the history of magic. It means how do we interpret magic in a way that becomes either self-expression or expresses an idea, and how do we convey that in a manner that is perhaps thought-provoking or touching or clever or engaging? How do we make this magic performance, and how do we turn that into immersive theater? How do we take online videos that expose magic and turn it into knowledge that embellishes your vision of how you see magic, or perhaps changes your vision of how you see magic and how you consume magic? Open-ended questions, I know, but I wanted to get a few ideas out there. I felt like I've had them in my head for a while, and I don't know if this even came out right. I don't know if these ideas are good, bad, right, wrong. I just have ideas. And whatever your thoughts are on magic as a potential art form or whatever it is, the state of magic, I'd love to hear them as well. And we're not always on the same wavelength because, you know, we've been into magic for longer or less time, and I think it's important as magicians to have this discussion openly and publicly rather than hidden in a forum somewhere, because it allows other people who might be interested in the craft to take part in that discussion, and their ideas aren't skewed by a magician's mentality. Whatever, I'm ranting. Thanks for watching this video. Also, I'm launching first playing cards very soon, and if you watched the video up until now, appreciate you, and more news coming in the next couple days. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next video. Peace. Rah.